Wondering what life is really like on Canada's wild and crazy West Coast? This podcast is all about the people, the places, and Vancouver Island time. Together, we'll explore this island paradise, a combination of ocean, city, and country living. We'll meet the fabulous locals such as the Fudge Fairy and the Chicken Lady, who have chosen Victoria and Vancouver Island as their home. And we'll learn what makes this place unique and special to those who live here. And now, your host of Vancouver Island Time, Jane Johnston.
Hi everybody, it's Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun and host of Vancouver Island Time. I'm here today with Rebecca Kirstein with Rethink Thinking and Raise a Dream. So we live in what area of the city?
In Oak Bay, Fairfield. I'm kind of in a funny little border over here. Technically, I'm Fernwood. Did you know that? South Jubilee.
Yes, I did. In fact, when I got into real estate, Jubilee wasn't really an area. They called it Sanachis, Camosun, and then Victoria. So we're north of Oak Bay. We're east of Richmond, west of Foul Bay. You are kind of in a shoulder area between the two. And I always thought if I was going to buy, you get a lot more for your money on this side of Oak Bay than you do the other.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I bought this place about 10 years ago. And at the time, that was definitely true. It's still true, but not as true as it was then. And I chose this area. I've actually lived in this area 3 times. I have owned a house that you can see from here that's over on Layton Street. I rented the house across the street from that house, and then I bought this house. So I'm obviously drawn to this area. And what draws me to it is the fact that I can walk downtown. I can walk to Oak Bay Village. I can walk to Cook Street Village. I can walk to the ocean. And there really is no need to have a car here. And I do have a car, but I don't use it in my own neighborhood at all. And we're walkers. We have dog and kids, and my daughter grew up in this neighborhood. So it was really walkability that was a big factor for me, and people. This neighborhood is like lots of people who have owned businesses for a long time. My neighbor owns Blighty's restaurant down on Oak Bay Avenue and has for like 20 years. Lots of family owned businesses. You get to know your neighbors. You get to, really support their businesses locally, which I love. And it was a great place to raise a kid right down the street from the park.
I grew up in a neighborhood like that. Actually, Briar Hill is a street one street away from where I grew up. I didn't want to call it the Courtly Group. Didn't sound very good. Briar Hill is easier to spell. And same thing. You knew all your neighbors. You could go for a cup of tea or grab a glass of juice from your neighbors. They wouldn't mind. Or some cookies. Sorry, Mrs. Houston. So do you walk to get your groceries?
Yeah. I do most of my grocery shopping at Red Barn, which is like 30 seconds away from here. There was a time where my daughter worked there, so we got 20% off. So why would I buy my groceries anywhere else? And it's not only is it walking distance, it's actually takes more time to drive there than it would to walk there. And so we're one of those families that we buy groceries like every day or two because we can just walk down there in 30 seconds and load up.
Yeah, it seems very urban, actually.
Yeah, it feels kind of European. Like when I've traveled and been in other countries, that's a really common thing. You pick up what you need on a sort of day-to-day basis. And I didn't grow up like that, and I loved that when I traveled. And I love having really fresh food. We don't eat a lot of processed stuff, so for us, it's super convenient because we can just buy food as we need it.
Do you eat meat? I forgot. Or are you vegetarian?
No, we eat meat. Absolutely.
So do you ever go to the Whole Beast?
Yes, I go to the Whole Beast, and I'm a big proponent of local products, not just when it comes to meat, but especially when it comes to meat. Whole Beast is amazing, and Red Barn carries lots of local products, and that's a huge selling feature for me.
What do you eat at the Whole Beast, actually?
Oh, what do I eat at the Whole Beast? Just recently we got duck at the Whole Beast, and did duck confit. Because they pre-marinate and do the whole thing for you. So you can take it home, cook it, and look like a rock star at a dinner party when you're totally not, which I'm not.
They have good sausages there too, right?
Amazing sausages. Yeah, absolutely. Amazing sausages. There's literally nothing that isn't awesome there. I've never bought anything that I didn't love. And I don't go there, with any kind of regularity, but when I want something special, that's when I go there.
Do you go to Ottavio's?
Yeah, I do go to Ottavio's. I used to go there a lot more when my daughter was in school. It was like on the route on the way home. So like that was like the mom coffee hangout. And so I go there from time to time, but they have amazing food and an amazing cheese selection, which is problematic.
Actually, it's kind of funny that you say that it's a mom hangout because I took my daughter to Marina Uzelac, who owns Holistic Chiropractic just off Oak Bay. And so we were a little early, so we went to Ottavio's, and there's this lady and her daughter sitting there, and they're looking at us. The daughter's fascinated by my daughter, who's 14, and it turns out like I was 7 years older than the mom, and my daughter was 7 years older than her daughter. So she was looking at us like, this is going to be me.
Like, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of that there. I think there's a lot of, I think that's one of the things I love most about this neighborhood is I'm a big people watcher, like to the point of creepy sometimes. And yeah, creepy. And I love watching people and like imagining their lives, and like I love airports for that reason. And this neighborhood is so awesome for that because there's a lot of, I think people are a little more slowed down here. They're like taking their time a little bit more.
Well, funny you say that again, because I was at Starbucks and there was this guy kind of like hurry up. And then he got his coffee and he promptly went to the window where they have those nice chairs, and he started reading his newspaper, which I thought was funny.
Hurry to read my newspaper.
I'm like, are you going anywhere?
That's awesome.
Anyway, but there are a couple of nice restaurants and bars along there, specifically the Penny Farthing. Mm-hmm. So do you hit?
Yeah, I actually I go to both, but I really like Vis-a-Vis in the summertime to sit outside on the patio there. It's awesome. They're
right on the street.
Yeah, right on the street. I take my dog walking a lot, so I tend to go to places where I can go and take my dog, and my dog's really well behaved. So having her on a patio, she's not going to be like begging for food and things like that. So she's really great that way. And it's just fun to go sit on a patio and have your pooch with you and order a beer or a glass of wine, and it's great.
Do they share the same kitchen?
I believe they do, Vis-a-Vis and Penny Farthing, but I don't know for sure. I think so, but they have totally different menus.
Okay, because I always go to Penny Farthing, and I haven't been to Vis-a-Vis yet. Okay, favorite meal at Vis-a-Vis?
Bar none, the shrimp and avocado salad is like mind-blowing. And there's so much shrimp on it, it's absolutely absurd. And you can like share it with another person, and you're still full. It's huge. Yeah.
I like to get the poutine at the Penny Farthing. Yummy, yum.
Yeah, their lamb burger is deadly too. I know the whole menu.
Okay, so there's some cool stores there. There's a home decor store, The Nest, I think it's called.
Yeah, I actually haven't been in there. I go to Nicholas Randall fairly often because they've been around since like the beginning of time, and I dig that place. And I go to there's a store right up here, and I never remember the name of it because I always pronounce it wrong. And it's right on Oak Bay Avenue, and it's women's clothing, but it's up on this end by Departures Travel, which is another awesome local travel agent who's my travel agent, which is amazing to be able to like walk up the street and like I go and book tickets in person just because that's fun.
How weird. I don't think I've done that in years.
It's so fun. And I can go and like talk to Fiona or Kathy like directly and have a conversation, or like meet Kathy for lunch and be like, by the way, can you buy me some tickets?
Kathy actually just bought that business, I think 2 or 3 years ago. She's done amazingly well. And she started a second business up in Sydney.
Absolutely. Yep. She's got one in Sydney now and the one here, which is just booming, and her staff are amazing. And I was one of those people who was like, why would I use a travel agent when I can book everything online? Oh my God, the difference in using a travel agent is like phenomenal, because every single time I travel, something goes sideways and flights are delayed or there's snow or whatever. And having a travel agent, you don't go and stand in line with all the other people that are dealing with the drama when there's snow. You call your travel agent and you sit there and drink coffee while they fix it. It's like so worth of like $50 or whatever you pay for them to book your tickets. It's nothing. And you never have to deal with anything.
Plus they follow up and see how it went, and they give feedback to the resorts.
They absolutely do. And when you're booking things, like we booked a trip to Costa Rica and Nicaragua, and we were going to many different places, and then we were doing some things on our own that weren't a part of the package, and then we had some package kind of things, and so we could totally customize all that in a way that if you were booking that online, it would be a nightmare, and you'd be wondering if you were going to be homeless one night when you got there because you did it wrong or whatever. None of that. It's just like done for you. I love it.
Okay, so let's get back. So do you consider yourself really Victoria or Oak Bay here?
I really consider myself Victoria.
Oh, really? I thought you were going to say Oak Bay.
I know. Well, it's kind of funny because like I grew up like Oak Bay was like snooty and it was filled with old people and blah, blah, blah. And like that was the mentality when you were young growing up in this neighborhood. And I grew up with that. And so it was kind of always one of those things where people are like, where do you live? And I'm like, Victoria, because it made you sound old or something to live in Oak Bay. But it's so not like that anymore. There's tons of families and kids and like I think I'm one of the older people now who lives there.
And they have new developments.
Tons of new developments. And they're actually the end of my street at the end of Redfern. There's like condos going up, but small ones like 4 or 5 story on either side, which I'm sure will attract more younger people. And yeah, lots and lots of kids now. And my daughter grew up in this neighborhood with tons of kids and it really isn't like that, but that's just like ingrained. And I bought here because we get all the benefits of Oak Bay, but we pay City of Victoria taxes, which is a bonus.
Yeah, it's much more reasonable. Actually, so I have a funny story about a buyer buying in View Royale, which is View Royal. I thought they were from Montreal, the way they said it. So we were talking about the area, and she was saying how central View Royal is and everything. And then I'm like, well, where are you from? And she goes, oh, I grew up in Oak Bay.
Really?
Yeah, she had no idea about View Royal.
Really? Like growing up here and not knowing about View Royal?
You know, because when you grow up here in Oak Bay, which we're not in, but adjacent to Oak Bay, like you have the tea party, you have the, like all the organized activities, they block off the street, they have announcements in the middle of the street. And so you grow up feeling a real part of that community. A lot of people don't move out.
Yeah, that's true. And we have a lot of that here. I think because it's happening in Oak Bay, it's kind of like bled out into the City Victoria side of things. And there's a huge block party that happens every summer that's organized by the neighborhood association, and they do like a bike parade with the kids, and there's like costumes and people are making like homemade ginger beer and like all these different like sort of neighborhood staples of like that everybody's like, oh, I can't wait for the ginger beer and I can't wait for this or that. And they block off our whole street and people are wandering around in the street and barbecuing and hanging out and chatting with their neighbors. And I love that about this neighborhood. It's very, people want to know each other.
Yeah, I miss that living. I live in Machosen. I miss that a lot.
Yeah, when there's more separation between the houses, like, yes, I can see my neighbor's house on both sides, and that's what you give up to live somewhere like this. But we still have a lot of privacy. There's still lots of trees, you know, we still have privacy in between the houses, but there's just that connectivity. And we really do like knock on each other's doors and borrow eggs and borrow sugar and borrow random things and tools from each other and waffle irons and things like that, because we can. It's like super convenient and easy. And it's usually, we send the kids back and forth. So when they were younger, they're never home anymore because they're all teenagers now. But when they were younger, that was the thing, like go over to Rochelle's and borrow a strainer or like, you know, random things. And I love that because it felt like when I was a kid, when everybody kind of shared neighborhood resources.
So getting back to your dog. So you have 2 dogs?
Well, I have 1 dog and my sister has a dog, and my sister moved over here from Vancouver last year and knew that she was going to have a challenge finding a place with a dog. So she moved in like last May and hasn't left.
So you have 2 dogs.
So I kind of have 2 dogs. Yeah.
So where do you go with your dogs in this area? What's dog friendly?
Yeah, there's so much dog. I walk around all the neighborhoods here, which you're not really allowed to do with your dog off leash, but my dog is so good that I just do that anyway and break all the rules, and nobody ever says anything because my dog's amazing. And so she just kind of sticks with me, and she's older and she just trots along. So we go to Redfern Park, which is like half a block away from my place. And we go down to Dallas Road, which is technically Fairfield and past Cook Street Village, but we go down there regularly. And my dog, this is funny, my girlfriend and I run stairs, and so there's lots of, as you know, stairways at Dallas Road. So my dog is now like getting on in years, and I was worried that I couldn't take her because I didn't want her to run the stairs because she's arthritic, and that's not good for her. It's good for me, but not good for her. And so she now knows. We take her down there and she waits at the top of every stair. She's like, you guys do that, I'll be right here.
That's funny.
Yeah. It's pretty hilarious, and it's great because I can still take her, but she's not hurting herself doing the stairs. So that's a great spot. Willows Beach is amazing from May till September. There's no dogs on the beach, but after September 31st, all the way up till May, you can take your dog off leash on the beach, and everyone does. And it's just kind of part of the Oak Bay culture. And you know all the people that have all the dogs on, because it's not a large area. And in that time of year, it tends to only be dog walkers on the beach. So you just get to know all the dog walkers.
Yeah, I find I know the dogs better than I know the humans.
Oh, I know all the dogs' names, but I don't know any of the humans' names. I know their faces, but I don't know their names.
Do you find like what's dog etiquette like around Victoria?
I don't think anybody really cares much about anything. If your dog isn't aggressive, then they don't care if your dog's on leash, off leash, anything like that. And if you pick up your poop. There's a lot of like poop police in Oak Bay. I will say that, where it's like, I'm coming and my dog is like 30 feet ahead of me taking a poop. And I'm like, don't worry, I'll get there. I'm walking towards the poop. And you got like 4 people going, your dog's poop. I know my dog's pooping. I have a bag. And
Pull out the bag.
It's here.
Okay, so we're going to close out here.
What, you don't want to talk about dog poop anymore?
Entertainment in the area.
Ooh, entertainment. Well, we're so close to downtown that we go downtown for I find Victoria, I like weird entertainment. Like, I don't like the typical, like, we go to a concert, we go to a play. Like, that's all great, and I'll do that stuff. But I like interesting talks, and we have confabulation, and we have fuck up nights, and we have weird theater where, like, you know, adults are performing plays kids wrote, and like those kinds of things. That stuff entertains me to no end. So I go to a lot of strange, interesting things in Victoria, and there's always something strange and interesting going on that is super entertaining. And downtown is like, we can walk home. We can go downtown, we can go to an event, we can have 2 or 3 drinks, and we can walk home.
How long does it take you to walk home? Well, wait, does it take longer to walk home than it does to go down?
Absolutely. After you have 2 or 3 drinks and you're sauntering down the road, then it takes you a little bit longer to walk home. But and often we'll like go downtown because we're going other places, or somebody's dropping you off, or that kind of thing. There's a lot of like ride sharing that goes on.
Plus you're right on a bus line on Fort.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you wanted to grab the bus, you could. We're walkers, so we like to walk, but my daughter takes the bus everywhere because teenagers like to do that.
Yeah, I hear you.
But yeah, there's so much to do downtown. There's stuff to do in Oak Bay. Absolutely. And there's, you know, we have Christmas time. There's the Santa parade, and there's the light up, and there's the truck parade, and there's, you know, all kinds of stuff, especially with younger kids. You know, Oak Bay Tea Party and all those kinds of things in the summertime. So there's always events going on, but you're a hop, skip, and a jump from downtown. So you pretty much have access to everything right here.
Yeah, you're kind of in a shoulder district between the two, so you get the benefit of both.
Yeah, I think this is the best neighborhood in the city to live in. Fairfield, Oak Bay. It's like so central, yet quiet, and you have a bit more space, but that's why it's so flippin' expensive.
When people come to Victoria and they're looking for a place, they go, I want to live in Fairfield. And then I show them the price, and they go, well, maybe I'll try Saanich East. Yeah. And then they'll like gradually move up the peninsula, and they almost never cross over the highway.
Yeah. I think it's very lifestyle based. Like this is a house that I could never afford today if I hadn't bought when I bought and leveraged one property into the next and kind of been lucky with timing and those kinds of things, because I'm a single parent and I pay this mortgage on my own. And living in this neighborhood, you don't find a lot of single parents that own properties. And I've been lucky and fortunate that I got in the market when I was 20 and, you know, bought and sold at the right times, because it's a pretty pricey neighborhood, but I wouldn't give it up now. Like, I will, even if I left this house, I would keep this house and I would rent it because it's just got so much value.
Yeah. Okay. So there is your introduction to the Jubilee area, Victoria Jubilee area. So if you're interested in knowing more about it in a real estate way, contact me. I'm Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun. And stay tuned. We're going to be back. We're going to talk to Rebecca about her businesses. They are
Raise a Dream and Rethink Thinking.
And it's really exciting what she's doing. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned and listen to the message. Bye.
Vancouver Island Time is brought to you by the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun, Victoria, where we bring local expertise and global presence to your property.
Hi, everybody. We're back with Rebecca Kirstein. and we're going to be talking about her two businesses, so Rethink Thinking and Raise a Dream. So first of all, what are the URLs for those?
raiseadream.com and rethinkthinking.ca.
And so which came first?
Rethink Thinking came first. I had 6 or 7 businesses and nonprofits before that. But that organization really was born out of a need that I saw in the community, and really came out of experimenting with what could work in terms of blending some models for human development. Really, I sometimes refer to it as the convergence of education and human development, because I really saw a gap happening between what was happening in specifically a school that we have locally called the Pacific School of Innovation and Inquiry, but also in different programs and different models that were being used in youth programming that weren't necessarily making their way into schools that were really, really effective. So we blended some models together to develop what we call the Summit, which started as an event and is still running as an event, a 2-day event for youth. And they come and we ask them one question. And the question is, if you could make, change, build, create, collaborate on anything today to make your life or the lives of others better, what would that be? And from that, we take the kids through a process, through an open space model, which is often referred to as an unconference. And we use an inquiry model that is really comes down to asking better questions, asking deeper questions, and use that inquiry model to really draw out what their interests are, what their passions are, what their strengths are. And they connect and collaborate with other kids that are interested in what they're interested in, and ultimately take action. And so that culminates into all kinds of projects and collaborations and community initiatives, businesses, nonprofits. And we saw that really taking off and kids starting to really engage in learning.
How often are you doing, so you have the official event. How often is that? Yeah. And then what's the follow-up?
Yeah, so the initial event is a 2-day event that happens annually here in Victoria, and we've now had demand to take the event to other cities. So we've been really busy this year looking at how we can not only package it so that it remains consistent and effective in other communities, but also how we can train facilitators to be able to scale it to other cities. So it will happen annually in other cities as well. And the follow-up is perhaps one of the most challenging things, especially in terms of scale. We can build a follow-up, and we have built follow-up tools and resources and programs here in Victoria. But how does that scale? How does that scale to other cities? And so we're working on a technology platform right now that is both ultimately a social platform for kids to connect post-event, but also a place where they can connect over their inquiries, share their inquiries online. So everything from audio to video to photos, and actually collaborate in a workspace online, but connect to each other, connect to other projects happening in other cities. So a kid might be able to connect to, they're trying to end homelessness here in Victoria, and they might find other projects in other cities, and they might find other collaborators in their own backyard. And the most important element of that is connecting to mentorship. So that was the most effective part of our event. And the thing that the kids asked for again and again was the human library. And the human library was filled with amazing local professionals from everything from politics to business to, we had Olympic athletes, we had artists, and a huge variety of different skill sets and experience. And those mentors were the hit of the event. The kids really enjoyed connecting one-on-one with mentors and being able to ask the kinds of questions that you can't ask Google, and being able to learn from lived experience. What resource might I use for this, or where might I find good educational opportunities post-secondary to explore this career, or what path did you take and what worked and what didn't, and just that real lived experience. And so that's what led us to developing, which is now our the first beta version of the software is focused specifically on the mentorship relationship between youth and mentors, and we're having youth advise us on how that gets built and how they'll use it, and really creating something safe and functional so that youth can connect to mentors all around the world.
Cool. And are you getting mentors from all around the world?
Yeah, so we are building the beta version right now, but we're connecting with existing mentorship groups around the world to determine interest and also determine a lot of these existing programs don't have an online component, don't have a way to connect online. And one of the biggest challenges and one of the biggest complaints from mentors is that it takes more time to coordinate a connection with a young person than it might actually take to do the mentorship itself. And so this is a way to eliminate some of those problems around scheduling, around communication, around different types of communication, like how youth might communicate versus how adults communicate. And
emojis versus words.
Yeah, emojis versus words, text versus, you might just have a simple question and you want to ask it via text, and you should be able to do that. And a lot of kids aren't using email as much, and they're using direct messaging. And so we're really trying to work out a lot of those potential conflicts in how people communicate to create something functional.
What I find interesting actually about social media is even when your email, like I have a sibling who changes his phone number a lot, but I can always get in touch with them via Facebook Messenger or whatever, instant message, so that I know I'm going to reach him somehow. So that's the difference between now and even 10 years ago.
Yeah, if you couldn't get someone by their phone number, it was game over. Even like email wasn't necessarily as effective, and people would change their email addresses, which doesn't happen anymore either. You keep the same one forever.
Right.
Or forward it or whatnot. But yeah, that was one of the biggest challenges was, sort of figuring out how to overcome those barriers to communication. But one of the biggest barriers to mentorship for young people is that they don't know what they don't know. So if they haven't experienced mentorship in some capacity, which is usually kind of fabricated, if at all, if there's any relationship at all, or they've gotten lucky and they got a great little league coach or, an awesome teacher that connected with them, or an interested neighbor, or whatever that might be. And their exposure to it has either been limited or non-existent. And if you don't know what you don't know that mentorship is valuable. And so this is a way to connect them, whether it's just questions about careers they might be interested in. It gives them an access point to see how mentorship might be valuable. And then they can explore those relationships in different ways and ask deeper questions and do a deeper inquiry, a deeper dive into, the knowledge that someone might have once they've made a connection that is safe and useful.
So I did my master's on mentorship.
What? How do I not know this?
It was on education.
And you've been in education forever. Okay, well, we need to talk after this, because that's one of the things that I'm most focused on right now. Because as you know, mentorship is incredibly valuable, but if there isn't a clear set of guidelines and understanding of what mentorship is and isn't, and how it can be effective, it can actually be damaging if you don't do it right.
Well, it can go both ways too.
Totally. And there's so much value to both the mentor and the mentee when the relationship is clearly defined and the boundaries are clear, and a mentor understands how to guide, how to step out of the way, how to not fix problems and solve things for someone else, because that isn't helping them ultimately. So there's an element of coaching there as well that is a process that people need to learn, and they can learn it while they're doing it, because if you're good intentioned, there's never going to be any damage created within that relationship if you're learning along the way. And that's one of our intentions is to create process and to give tools to both mentors and mentees as to how to better make use of the relationship and be more effective.
Yeah. And I imagine also that the mentor is learning from the mentee. A mentee, by the way, that word just came out in the year 2000.
Did it really?
It's a protege.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a mentee.
Mentor and a protege. Well, and I love the context of, it was an article that Ian Chisholm locally shared with me recently, that they had written for Roy Group about mentor being a gift word. You can't call yourself a mentor. Someone has to gift you with that word. And I've gifted a few people in my life with that word, but I don't think they would ever refer to themselves as my mentor, but I refer to them as a mentor of mine. So it really is a gift word.
Huh, that's interesting. Okay, so then this led to your other group, Raise a Dream. Tell me about that.
Raise a Dream was actually born out of Rethink Thinking, because the initial start of Rethink Thinking was, okay, I've got this crazy idea, and Jeff Hopkins, who runs the Pacific School of Innovation and Inquiry, was like, yeah, let's get this out to more kids. He's running this school, doing this amazing work, but there's lots of kids that don't have access to these kinds of tools and this kind of thinking, and so that was really the intention. And what came out of that was a whole challenge around, building something that never existed before, and required a lot of collaborators and a lot of partners and ultimately a lot of money, without any promise of, here's this investment and here's how it's going to make money. It was really, altruistic in the sense it was like, this is going to make a difference for a lot of kids. How do we do this? And how do we move this forward? So it was really born out of collaboration, which ultimately led to sponsorship, and the entire first and second year's event. You were a sponsor for the second year as well. And what that meant is that a community needed to come together supporting it, not just financially, but in terms of getting the word out and getting kids there and sharing with people what this was, because it was something that had never been done before. People didn't know what it was and why it was valuable. So it was really a collaborative effort in the community and required of me to kind of, pull in what I call social capital. It's like, you do favors for other people for years and help them and support and mentor and, and sponsor and do all those kinds of things. And then when you pick up the phone, you're like, hey, now I'm doing this thing and I need your help. And people were rallying to help. It was awesome. The whole community came together to make this happen. And so I really recognized from that there's a lot of value in social capital when you use it for the right reasons in the right ways. It's one thing to call someone up and be like, hey, can you babysit my dog for 2 weeks? Or, hey, can you support the kids in this event? And that's a very different ask. And so out of that, I was introduced to Charmaine Hammond, who's my business partner with Raise a Dream. And she was very much doing the same thing, using these tools, using sponsorship specifically, to get great ideas off the ground and really make a difference in the world. And so we kind of came together and said, hey, what if we could teach these tools and give these resources to other entrepreneurs? Because ultimately, and why we called the company Raise a Dream, is that every entrepreneur has a dream of making a difference. You're hard pressed to find somebody who's just in it to make a buttload of cash, and
they're working their passion.
Yeah. They're very much working in their passion, and as a result, their intention is to really make a difference. And so, every dream that comes along ultimately requires collaborators and requires support and connection to make these things happen. And most entrepreneurs have massive networks because we're always collaborating and networking and building and growing and clients and partners and all of those things, but they don't know how to use that effectively to
leverage.
Yeah, to leverage it, and ultimately do that in a way that financially benefits all parties, but also makes big ideas happen in the world.
Who's your ideal client, I guess, clientele for Raise a Dream?
Our ideal clientele is definitely people who are actively working in their business, have been for sort of 3 to 5 years or more. So they already have a successful business. They already have a big network. You're our ideal client. Somebody who's already doing well, and has achieved a level of success that they're pleased with, but is also driven to do more, do bigger things, make a bigger difference. And those are our ideal clients, because they are the kind of people who fully understand that they cannot go to the next level without including partners and different ways of thinking and
strategic alliances.
Yeah, strategic alliances and multiple revenue streams and really a different way of looking at partnership, and cross promotions and marketing and all of those things are valuable. But it's how you leverage one thing into the next that is the strategic part of it, and that's often what people need a lot of help with.
So what do you provide to them? What face-to-face training do you provide?
We have done one-on-one. We do very little one-on-one now because, as you know, that's really, really time consuming. So we've developed a lot of online programs so that A, people can access it at a lower price point, and B, they can do it at their own pace. But we also do packages of, we call them power hour calls, because a lot of times people will go through the training and they're like, great, now I have this awesome bank of knowledge and I know what to do, but I need some perspective on strategizing. So we do a lot of that one-on-one, like short term, over 2, 3, 4, 5 calls, and also monthly coaching. And we tend to do a lot of group work. So we work with like larger organizations that have teams, and we train their teams in how to incorporate sponsorship into their business model.
And do you find, have you had any success stories with your clients?
Oh yeah, we've had tons of success stories, big and small. And there's actually quite a few clients that we can't actually even talk about what we've done behind the scenes because they're bigger clients with bigger organizations, and so we sign agreements so that we don't talk about those things. They want to look like their success is all their own.
Well, it's all about discretion, right? You're not in front. You're helping them leverage themselves.
Absolutely. And they've done a ton of work to get to where they are. And they're smart enough to reach out for experts in specific areas to get them to the next level. So that's ultimately what we work on with some of the larger clients that we work with. And then in the, sort of B2B world and smaller to mid-sized businesses, we've had lots of success stories around people who never even considered sponsorship as a revenue stream or partnerships in that way in their business, and they've ultimately been able to incorporate that into their business, and in a matter of months, they've not only recouped their investment in working with us, but brought on some really big partners that have actually opened a whole new avenue for their business that they didn't previously see. So in many cases, the sponsorship relationships are really valuable financially and otherwise, but it's the doors that get opened as a result of those partnerships that are exponentially valuable.
I'm holding a client appreciation party, and I'm getting it sponsored.
Yay. I love to hear that.
It only took 13 years.
And was that attributed to some of the learning that came through Raise a Dream in some way?
Yeah, through my talk with you and Charmaine, it just kind of like, I thought, oh, you know what? The thing that people need to realize, I think, is that others want to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is, when we do our 3-day retreats, which are quite intensive, we spend the entire first day really getting people to understand their value and be able to articulate that, because people go into sponsorship relationships, partnership negotiations, whatever it may be, feeling as though they're asking for something rather than coming to the table giving something, and just changing that perspective of how much value you have to bring to the table to a sponsor. You're achieving outcomes that they need to achieve, and you're actually ticking boxes for them and putting money in their bank account, much in the same way. And usually that relationship, if it's done right, their ROI on whatever cash they might outlay or whatever products or services in kind is usually 3 times or more than what they've actually put out. So knowing that and understanding that relationship and how to position yourself is half the battle, if not more, because you're not coming to the table feeling like you're asking for money.
It's also about self-esteem, I think, like
Totally.
Just understanding that you are worth it.
Yeah, you are worth it. You are good enough, and you have value to offer to the world and certainly to sponsors.
Okay, so I'm sure I've tempted some people. How do they get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with us through the website. Yeah. www.raiseadream.com. And yeah, they can connect directly from the website. Stacy, who is our dream queen behind the scenes, who does all things logistical and makes sure that we get all the emails that we need to get. So they can connect with us to book a call, book a consultation, or just directly dive into all the resources that we have online. Our Facebook page has a ton of resources on it. If people just want to get a feel for what we do and how we do it, there's lots out there that is free and accessible to really understand how this could work for your business. And then lots of ways to work with us.
Thank you so much for joining us, Rebecca. If you're interested in raiseadream.com, please go to the website and inquire about making an appointment with her and Charmaine. They're absolutely excellent. If you want more information about the Jubilee area in Victoria, I'm Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun. And if you want to check us out, we have tons of vlogs like this at vancouverislandtime.com. We'd love for you to be a guest. So go to the bottom of the page, click on Be a Guest, and we'd be happy to have you. All right, take care and welcome to the neighborhood.
Welcome to the neighborhood. We hope you have had some insight into West Coast living. If you know of someone or someplace that should be highlighted in our podcast, we love to hear from you. Please go to vancouverislandtime.com and click on our Connect button. See you next week on Vancouver Island Time with Jane Johnston.